Yes, yes, I do see it works.
And do you want to change the camera?
It's fine, it's fine.
Okay.
Did John Herberger release you to go, or you disappeared without permission?
No, I finished my presentation that I have.
Today?
Yeah, it was the only presentation, so we got done earlier.
Oh, okay.
On the front here.
I didn't announce it broadly, but you will be the only special guest unless rumors went around.
Sorry,
Thanks
what?
for coming. Oh.
Some of these look like gas station security.
The rest next.
Use my screenshot. Nice.
I don't know if it encourages you or discourages to connect online next time.
It's okay. Are we going in this order then?
Huh?
Are we going in this order then? One through.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Very good. Good listening. So we can start before the first speaker arrives. Can you check with Med, Kweeni, and the
I was in Svetlana's lab, so
Huh?
I was in Svetlana's lab before I came here, so I'm not sure what they're up to.
Yeah, many thanks for submitting. Ah, you're the first speaker.
That's me. I'm late.
So you. And the rest of- Huh? Well, we are constantly under.
Your surveillance.
Yes. Who else is missing? Sudipto. And Anas.
Should I go up there or wait?
I'll announce you like as a special speaker.
Look at this.
It looks like you're in a convenience store. And
Yeah. Well, yours is pretty good.
I know.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I like Anasis though. I think
Anasis
he's
is
probably
good.
my favorite.
So yeah, we are meeting on the Sudipto, right? By now. Okay, well, good evening. Welcome for coming and for submitting slides in time, almost in time, in spite of the weather conditions. Yeah, if you would have previous meetings, probably it would be a little easier to organize, but still you did it.
We did it.
So it's a part of this course, and we are spending some time in the labs and 4 times per semester when the lectures are given not by instructor but by students. Its purpose is that the practical skills of computation are shared, distributed, and everyone shares personal story of success and failures, just to tell unbiased opinion what works and what doesn't work. There is list of things, and we will have your presentations entered into the list. And today's presentations will be on the subject of building atomic molecular models from different aspects, because without this step you cannot go further into actual computational chemistry. Here is the order of speakers. Please try to follow the schedule. Ideally, if you can do it in 3 minutes, it will be so nice. Anyway, it is not always possible. There will be some questions that will prevent you from being too quick and give floor to the next speaker. But brevity is not bad. If you can do it in brief, do not hesitate.
So are we shooting for less than 10 minutes?
If we using more than 2 hours, then we will not be recorded.
Okay.
So, and then NS will be not on the tape. So, I do believe that each of you have seen Microsoft Windows and PowerPoint before, right? Since you are preparing, but just in case you didn't, all your slides are placed on this desktop. They are numbered in the order they appear, and I typed in your names as good as I can. I apologize if there were any errors. And the goal of all this sequence of presentations is that everyone will be confident in ability to create atomistic models, convert different formats, and later on we will start to characterize them in more details. So with this, I would like to invite the special speaker. Please. Mede? Erickson? Erickson.
Yeah.
I'll launch your stuff here. And you know, in PowerPoint, there is a button to launch it, right? So here is an advancer and...
Yeah, which one's the beam?
Do not focus on our eyes.
Yep. And then you're saying this is go left to right of the slides.
Yep. And if it doesn't work, just use keyboard.
Perfect. Okay. Hello, everyone.
Picky about where you point at.
Huh?
Picky where you point at.
Go to advance the slides.
And do you have to go to the computer or some other source?
I think towards the computer.
Okay.
You can practice it for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, no big deal. The floor works too, apparently.
And here is another screen, so you may decide if you like to be in focus or you want to hide from it.
I think this is perfect, actually. Hello everyone, my name is Erickson. I'll be discussing with you just the first steps to get into a Linux interface. Is that the right way to word it? Okay, and we'll be using MobaXterm. I know we've used it already, but we can go over it. I highlighted the URL for what he had presented to us in the past, and just for clarification, we want the free version for all you rich people out there. We obviously hit the download button, and we want the portable edition. That's what I went with. You're gonna get a zip file, and when the folder starts up, somehow extract it, and then the two files that are in it tend to be this one and this one. You just double click on the MobaXterm personnel. We've done this in class. It's been phenomenal. And then using the information we will not talk about, I was able to log in. Okay. And what had happened, as you can see, it's very complex. I'm not someone who likes to code. I get very bothered by a lot of this. This is just a language that is just irritating to me. If you put an S where it doesn't need to be, it says an error. Put a B, what should it be? It's a criminal act. I don't know why. So with all this being said, this is the interface that we see, and I will just give you some brief comments on what we can do with it. There's going to be like 2 or 3 main things that we're going to be focused on. LS, and press enter. As you can see in this example, here is the profile, and then this is just my simple command. I press enter afterwards, and what happens is it gives you a simple folder of all the information. The folder you're accessing right now gives you all the other folders involved with it, or the other document. And for the next example, using CD, it's change directory, and this actually goes into one of those files that I had specified earlier. As you can see, I put CD, which is change directory, and that's command, and it will access one of the files shown in the slide before. So in this case, I put CHEM676, that's the class we're in, and phenomenal. And then as you can see, that is where I'm that is where I'm accessed right now. That is the folder I'm in. 2 basic commands, but yet if you don't know it, if you never used this information before, it's pretty tough. You don't know where to look. Why would you put ls cd? Who knows? So other big things that are going on with this Linux interface is the program is case sensitive. Some aren't, or some cases aren't in specific situations. MATLAB, that's a computational thing. It can and can't be. I've used it a couple times. And then here's a big button that I got stuck with a few times in class and other work I've done. Critical or Control plus C is a big thing that just kills the process. We all need that. BABEL is an example of one of the software we will be using with the interface that we've shown. And that's simply a BABEL command, which is BABEL enter. Man is a manual. It'll give you a specific, it'll give you help on software that you're accessing, such as BABEL. So manual BABEL will give you the help you need. And simply pressing up on an arrow in the command line, awaiting your prompt, will give you your previous codes you've entered. So if you want to retype code, it's very helpful. So you don't have to keep retyping it yourself. You can just press up on the arrow and it works great. And I believe that would be it. Hopefully that was within 3 minutes.
Okay, please join me to thank the speaker. And any questions are very welcome.
So, BABEL is another program just like JMOL or Gaussview?
From my understanding, it would be, yes. It's something we can access within this interface.
Did we cover it in the labs from previous weeks?
Last week, I believe we did.
Okay.
And so what it is, if you're curious on BABEL, if you have 2 different file types, it'll convert one to the other. So if you have Gaussview, remember we did that, you can convert that into a different 3D software thing. And that's all it does, is it just converts it. So,
all right.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I have a comment and question.
Yes.
Comment that later on there will be different account, either personal or group account. Here in the yellow shirt there is a system administrator of this server who may help if you would be nice to him. And question, suppose that you open more than one window and you run a code that you do not like. How do you stop it? If Control-C doesn't help.
Or you could exit out of it. Totally. But what do you mean by 2 windows? Are you talking like
Through MobaXterm, you open more than one window.
So you're saying, as in this part, I'm going to have 2 tabs?
Yes.
How to get rid of it? You're saying Control-C would not work if possible? Or Control-C wouldn't work? Then I believe the only thing I can do that I know of at the top of my head is simply press the X button to get rid of it. Oh, my apologies.
Any other commands or ideas?
Vice.
PS minus AX, find the actual process that's running, and then do kill -9 on the process ID.
Kill -9?
Yep, that's kill with force. You may need to be sudo for that, but you can at least use the kill command on the process ID.
You can also use top and then kill it on top. If you're not sudo.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that's okay.
So are you saying this would be just a simple line code that I would use, or we have to find it?
You'd have to actually, you have to find it, you have to know what you're looking for. So
Yep.
top would work if it's process heavy, PS minus AX, and then grepping out your actual process if it's like a zombie thing that's hiding off in the woodworks.
The issue is, like I said, this is a new language. So specifically, where am I dealing with this, or what commands am I telling the interface? At what point are you typing anything in, or are you just simply searching and clicking?
So let's say you just got disconnected from your session, whatever, the Wi-Fi crapped out on you. So you log back into the system and you notice that everything's really sluggish. So if you type in top, just type in the word top. It'll show you the information of the processes that are running, and then you're able to get the process ID, and then you can do kill on that process ID.
Perfect.
And assuming you have the rights to actually do that, it'll kill that process.
Thank you for explaining. I did not know that. Thank you.
Additionally, if you don't care about any process that's running for you, you can do kill all, and space -u, and then the username. That would be less advantageous if there's multiple people using the same account.
It's what system administrator does after we end the session.
But you can also do that if you realize, oh crap, I have no idea what's going on. I want to just wipe everything I've been doing.
Sounds like you're pretty familiar with that.
So if you type top in, it shows your process ID, and then after that, all you have to do is type in kill and then the process ID. And
So
then
if you're in top, it looks like this,
Yeah.
but you can't really see. So if you hit C, I can't do C.
We will not see it. We will not see it. In
And then
this
you just
notification.
say K and then type in the pin. And then it would
Not
kill
kill,
it.
just K.
Yeah, it's just K.
Okay.
Oh, that's
So take it as an advertisement if you need details. Approach
K
personally.
space the ID.
Yeah, you just hit K and then it says pin to kill, and then you just put in the pin.
Thank
So
you.
if you keep at this space, there will be space only for 8 speakers. So let's thank Made once again. Next speaker is Kurt, invited to the stage. So he will continue teaching us how to use Linux with at least 2 subjects, maybe more. I'm not sure. One about files, saving, transmitting, and another about introducing to multi-node computer clusters.
at least a very high level first time. Let's see if I can grab a little quicker. Okay, so I'm Kurt Altenberg, and I'll be going over how to upload files, how to download files, and just generalities about directories, and really high overview of a high-performance computing cluster.
You can keep talking.
Okay. Which button is it? Oh, okay. So.
Just do not point on people when playing with buttons.
Oh, okay. So I guess goals, how to train you how to upload a file to a server, how to transfer files between servers, how to download a file from a server, how to navigate the file structures or the directory structures on the command line, have an understanding of which files you can modify, and have a high-level understanding of high-performance computing.
Probably
Oh, okay.
receivers. And if it fails, just use keyword up, or up, down.
You have the context menu open.
Oh,
That's why.
okay, there we go. Okay, navigating a file system. So we'll go a little bit further into the list command. ls minus a will list all the files in the directory. ls minus h will make it human readable, and ls minus l will give you a list. So rather than having it scroll all the way across your screen, you get this nice setup here. And I guess we can go into. And while we're up here, so this was ls minus lha. So you get all the information you possibly can on this. It'll tell you the permissions of the file and directory and tell you whether or not it's a directory or a file. This, in file permissions, this first letter here is the, it'll tell you whether or not, if it's a D, it's a directory, if it's a dash, it's a file, and if it's an I, it's a symbolic link. The first set of 3 letters, the RWX, stands for read, write, or execute, and that's the owner of the file has the first 3 letters. The next 3 letters are the group, and the last 3 letters are it's just anyone can access that. So execute is more like if you have like an application that needs to run, if it's a JavaScript, if it's a piece of PHP. If you don't have execute permissions on the file, you may be able to modify it, you may be able to look at it, but you won't actually be able to run that code. If you don't have read permissions, then you'll just be locked out of the whole system. The next column, I'm kind of trying to blink on. But here's the owner, then the group, and then the sizes. This was just on one of my servers, and so you can see it's pretty small. But the fact it says 4 kilobytes rather than 4,000 bytes, that's the human readable aspect of it. And then it has the last access date and the actual file name. And a little period in front of the file means that it's a hidden file, and that's what little a will get you. To actually change directories, you can use the cd command, and cd/ will get you into the very, very bottom root directory. I would imagine most of what we're going to be playing with is going to be cd/home, and then your user account, or unless this is anything correctly.
No, it's /home/clean.
Username.
Or you just do tilde.
Or just tilde. And then to go back up in the file directory, you can do cd period. You've got multiple directory levels. You can do cd period slash period slash period slash. And if you need to return to the original directory you were working in, you would do cd and just a dash, like a minus sign, space and a minus sign. That'll bring you back to the original, to the directory you just came from. When you're in your home folder and you have permissions, you can use mkdir or make directory, and then you'll be able to actually make a file folder so you keep it somewhat clean. If you have permissions, you can also use rm to kind of clean things up. Just rm itself will work on a file, although if you want to delete a directory, you'll need to do rm minus r, and that'll have it go recursively through the whole directory structure. And if I remember correctly, you can do rm minus rv to go through it also. Although I'll have to double check and see how this instance works. Uploading and downloading files. The 2 most common methods that at least I've used is SCP and rsync. SCP, the advantage there is I can be just a server in the middle, and as long as I have user accounts on the 2 servers I'm trying to talk to, I can transfer the files between those 2 servers. And rsync does pretty much the same thing, except for it can only communicate between the computer you're currently on and the server you're trying to communicate with. The advantage of rsync, at least for me, is you can do a delta sync, so you're not having, so if you have like 10 gigabytes of files to transfer, but you already have 8 gigabytes of them over on the server, you can just transfer in new files. And then there are some graphical user interfaces you can use, like FileZilla and WinSCP. FileZilla you can use on Linux and Windows. And I'm pretty sure Mac. WinSCP works on Windows. And that over there is, I got like a little picture right now. Over there is a screenshot of WinSCP, so you can drag and drop files back and forth between your local machine and the server you're playing with. And this is just two examples here. So the first one is an rsync example, and that was done between my local box and a development box. But you can see it sent 57 bytes, received 12 bytes, and had a transmission rate of 19.71 bytes per second. Total size 1.67 kilobytes. And that's what it looked like if it succeeds. Secure connection protocol, we've used that, but you notice how long the string is. So this was sent while I was on Spider 5, and it was between Dev 5 and Dev 1. So as long as you have the accounts on both the servers, that's the advantage of using SCPs. You don't actually have to be logged into all the boxes or try to bounce back and forth between your local machine and those servers. So here, I guess yeah, some other fun things about rsync is if you do, so you can see how I did a dash. I have the arguments of A, V, Z, H, and E. A is an archival argument that says, or an archival option that says maintain the original permissions that were on the files as you pull them across. So if the owner was root, the owner is going to stay root, and the group is going to stay root. V is verbose. So it tells you every single file it's sending across as it's sending across. So if you start seeing like 10,000 files that you didn't actually want in the web server directory, you can do a Control-C and cancel command. Z is a compression command. That'll help save you a little bit of space. Let's see your H. H is again human readable, and the E option is actually the one that lets you use SSH with rsync. High performance computing, I'm a little bit rusty on this one. Although the general idea is you have like you have one master node, and then you distribute it across a whole bunch of compute nodes. So a very primitive setup here would be you'd have your Active Directory Kerberos authentication authorization server that would then let you into a master node that could take care of the queuing and the process loading between the compute cores. And also the master core would have something similar like Zabbix or another monitoring agent on there, so you could identify hardware faults and swap out hardware as needed. What kind of high performance computing nodes do we have? Are we OpenStack or?
So the cluster that you guys sign into is not a high performance computing.
Okay.
It's just a single node.
Okay. So some options if you went dumpster diving and grabbed yourself 3 decent-ish used workstations or more, maybe a couple hundred of them. You could use OpenPBS, which was actually developed by NASA. Then you have OpenStack, which is another open source option. I don't remember the whole history on that one. I think that was IBM, wasn't it? Originally. OpenHPC, Oscar, and I know we used to have a Beowulf cluster on campus, but I'm not sure if that's still around or if that's just ancient history. Any questions?
Okay, please join me in thanking the first questions are welcome.
Explain that RMR, what is the command? RMR.
Which one?
One command was, RM / -R.
Which? Huh? I can't even read that. What command is it?
rm-r. What is this command?
Oh,
Try to avoid it.
well, rm-r, so if you want to get rid of a directory, just be very, very careful with it. If you do rm-r, that's remove recursively. So it's going to go to that directory, and it's going to blow away everything inside that directory, and then it's just going to keep going through the complete file structure until it runs out of files to keep deleting.
So if you want to make bad thing to the whole group, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Try to stable. More questions? Very quick one. Which challenges induce humans to build HPC clusters? Why not a single node?
Oh, that's you can either invest in 2 oxen or 1,024 chickens, according to Seymour Cray. And if you lose 5 chickens, you haven't lost much production capacity. If you lose 1 of the oxen, you've lost half your performance off the top. Also, IBM loved their mainframes, but they cost millions of dollars, and you had to buy the service contracts through IBM. Using high-performance computing clusters like this, you literally go dumpster diving. You grab as many computers as you possibly can, anything that can run the host software, and just plug them all into the network, plug them into switches, and get them all computing. And that's what these high-performance clusters are good at, is parallel tasks. If you needed highly specialized hardware to get a task done, then you might need to go, then you might need to spend the money and get that specialized hardware. But.
Okay, please join me in thanking Kurt once again. And there will be next presentation by Sudipto Saha. So he is the last talk who speaks about technical details of computations, and he opens the door into actual computational chemistry. So last words of Kurt were introduction to the first words of Sudipto. So he will tell more about actual computational high-performance clusters that we will practice very soon.
Hi, this is Saha. I'm going to talk about how to submit jobs in high-performance computers. We'll basically focus on the softwares we need, how to open the account here, and this. So before we start, we know that our high-performance computer is in CCAST, and in the CCAST we basically have a resource manager that divides the total computing resource into several small groups, and there is a scheduler that basically decides which job should be started when and how long should it take and this type of stuff. So if we want to use this high-performance computer in CCAST, I use basically request a resource through that resource manager, and based on the time and resource or nodes our user asks for, the scheduler does all the steps for submitting that job. And in that CCAST we have only one cluster, that is called Thunder, and in that Thunder cluster we have 53 computing nodes and 2 logging nodes, and with 5 queues, and these 5 queues are basically based on the wall time. Wall time basically means the amount of time our user asks for doing the simulation, and the memory he is asking for his simulation. And based on these things, basically there are 5 different types of queues, like default or big memory or DevHel or small, short, this type of stuff. So in our So in that CCAST, before using any software or before running your simulation, you will have to create an account there. And if you go to that link given there, you will see an application form. You will just have to complete that form, and you need the consent of any faculty of NDSU for using that software. And after that, you will have to email them that I am willing to use this software, for example, VSP or something like that. And maybe after 3 to 5 days, you will get confirmation that you can use the software while logging into your CCAST account. And after you create your CCAST account, you can. Okay. So after you log in into your CCAST account, you can submit your job. And for submitting your job, you basically need one input file and the PBS script. That PBS script basically defines the resources you want, the amount of time you want, and this type of stuff. We'll discuss a little bit more about the PBS script. And both the input files and the PBS script should be on the same directory. Okay. So creating that PBS script, basically you can either write the PBS script yourself in Notepad, and you can also directly write it in Linux if you want to use it. Write it on Linux. You can use the nano command, and we have used this nano command earlier in our first lab, 3 hours lab. And how to write that PBS script. Here I have shown few commands that may help you to write a job description file. Like all the PBS scripts usually start with that first line, like pound/bin bash, and that pound basically is for adding comments, and pound PBS is for requesting job scheduling resource, and similarly for pound -q shows the queue you want to use, and -n for selecting a name for your job. And in this way you can, like, these are the tips, these are the comments you can use while writing a job description file. And you can you will also have to write the processor your software is going to use. Like for example, here I have written that the DSP software is using Intel 2018.2.046 this module in our CCAST. So you will have to write the description of the module your software is going to use in the CCAST. And after that, using the command line, you can write the previous job description file. And here I have shown an example of the previous script. And you can also write all these things in the Linux command using the nano. And after that, you will have to submit the job as you have written the previous script for writing all the descriptions of the job you are going to submit. You will have to submit the job now, and you can do it using the qsub command. Like when you suppose you have a job named ABC or something like that, abc.pbs. So you will just write qsub abc.pbs, and if you want to check the status of the job, like qstat -u, then your username that you have used for while opening the CCAST account. And if you want to delete a job, just qdel and the job ID. After that, so there are some useful commands that may help you while getting familiar with the job. Like as I have just said, that qstat is for checking the job status, qsub is for submitting the job, and similarly you have cd for changing the directory, and nano for text editor. We have discussed these things a little bit earlier. And the softwares we need for all these steps. We can use Qt. I personally use Qt software for creating a connection between SSHs and the CCAST cluster we have in our high-performance computer. So we can use that Qt software to communicate from our laptop or our Windows-based computer to the high-performance computer. And WinSCP is basically for transferring files from our computer to the high-performance computers. So here, these small images, like after installing the Qt software, things are pretty simple. You will have to write the host name. Like in our case, it's thunder.ccast.ndsu.edu, and all these things are the same, like it should be port 22 and the connection should be SSAEs. And after that you will just have to press yes, and then you will get a screen like this, and in this screen you will have to log in using your CCAST account name and password. This is for PUT, and after logging into that PUT software, you can easily write comments here and you can submit your job through this black window. And for the WinSCP software, after installing the software, you will have to similarly write the same hostname, that means standard.ccast.ndc.edu, and then your username and password. And after all these steps, you will get a screen like this, and you can easily transfer, just drag and drop files from here to that window. This window is basically for Windows section, and that window is for our high-performance computers memory. So that's all I can help you with submitting the job in the high-performance computer. So thank you, and if you have any questions.
Okay, please. It was the first, second.
Question for the PBS files, how do you make notes in that? They make notes without it reading that. Like obviously I just want to write a note in the file. How do you do that?
Like how many nodes you are going to use?
No, so like if I want to write a comment in the file, the PBS file, how do I do that? Like a comment that won't be read as actual code?
Yeah.
Do you know how to do that?
Maybe I didn't understand your question, I'm sorry.
Can someone help me explain?
Pound in front.
Oh yeah.
Is it double? Is it a double pound actually?
1 pound is sufficient.
Oh.
For if you're doing it in the PBS header, I think you need 2. But if you're just putting a comment, you just need 1 pound.
Any more question?
How do you do the B command stuff? When they kind of write on the instead of like going to the site to open files, you can literally write on the command window.
Linux command window?
Yeah. How do you do the? I think there's something called the V or something, type V.
How to write in that command
Yeah.
window?
Like edit the file in that command window.
So when you give the nano command, it will open up a window for writing your commands, and after that just control X, and then you will have to press Y and then press enter. Then after writing all the things you want to write, you will have to press give nano command, then it will give you a window. You will write whatever you want to read, right? And after that control X, then Y, then enter, then that will be saved.
Questions? I have a question. Can you connect to CCAST from Photon?
I have not used that.
Do you think it is possible?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so you just type SSH and with all credentials. If no more questions, let's thank Shaha once again. And the next presenter, Ben Geffte, will help us to deep and dive into activity related to true computational chemistry, to building models that are prepared for characterizing molecules.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at how to run Gaussview specifically from command line, and just a little bit more. So first step is running Gaussview from the command line. Assuming that you have the right files, you simply type gview.exe and it opens up Gaussview. And then from there you can open files or you can create a new file. This is what the open file looks like. You can open several different file types from Gaussview, or you can just type the file that you want to open in Gaussview directly after gview.exe. I tried doing this in my local Photon account. I don't think I have the right things in my photon account because it didn't work.
Set up a path or just be nice to system administrator?
Okay. So just a little bit more. So running Gaussview, you may notice that it doesn't run very well. So if that happens, some things that you can do is go into preferences and display format. You can change, how it's displayed, and it will help Gaussview to run faster. It won't necessarily run faster. Here's an example of Gaussview running with these settings. It's notably faster than it was before I put these settings on. So another thing that you might want to change is element in colors, for example, in particular the background color. So you can do this in the colors, on your colors with preferences. You can change each individual element, you can change surfaces, bonds, vibration colors. Here I changed some colors up on the molecule. Most usefully though is the background color. Help it blend in with whatever papers that you are going to write. Or if you have, for example, a PowerPoint and the background is a different color, you can match the colors so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. So that's really it. So.
Okay, let's thank Ben for being champion in duration of talk. Questions are welcome. If anything was unclear or you want to learn in more details how to operate colors in Gaussview, take your chance. Okay, if no, let's thank Ben for being everlasting champion. I don't think if you can beat. And David Graupner will continue the story. So we chop the use of Gaussview on smaller pieces, so because we need to use it to learn all details.
So I'm going to talk about building the atomic models. So at the beginning here, you have a little menu here with all sorts of different options. From this one here, you can pick your fragments, make your fragment selection. You have a couple buttons so you can modify the bond angle or the dihedral. You can delete an atom, add a valence hydrogen. You can use this one to work with a custom fragment. So I decided to make a simple benzene, mainly because that's what we made in the lab. So I chose a carbon, and I chose this specific fragment for the benzene, and I placed it on my field. And then I placed a second one, but because it did not have the right shape that I was looking for, I had to alter it so that it would have the correct shape, which is shown over here. And I did that by adjusting the dihedral angle. So I continued this until I had all my 6 carbon atoms. But you'll notice that this bond, which is where the 2 ends meet, isn't quite right. So we had to adjust the bond between these 2 atoms using the modified bond to get the correct bond. What this actually is 2 carbon atoms with bonds pointed, but they aren't actually bonded to the next carbon in the bond. So you actually have to delete those bonds and then make the correct bond. So then moving forward, you can select other atoms. In this case, I picked boron. And if you look at it, you notice compared to the carbon, when we were making the benzene where the carbon was blue, I selected the hydrogen over here. So now when I click an atom in here, this hydrogen is what's going to replace it. So by clicking on this, what was the carbon atom, it becomes this hydrogen in the boron group. So then another way you can access all these elements is by using right-click on your menu. And then here, I chose the add the valence option. What this do is it lets you add additional hydrogen atoms. So I put an additional 2 around the boron, plus I put 1 on another hydrogen, just so you can see what it does. And then the last thing is this custom fragment. So what I did here is I used the select atoms and I selected my entire molecule. And then I copied it and I used the custom fragment and I just have it set up to take from my clipboard. So now this molecule that I made, if I were to click in here on any of these atoms, it would attach this entire molecule.
That's it? Okay, let's thank David. You are in a good competition with Ben. So, questions? Questions are really very encouraged and welcome. I have one. So, when you already partially answered it, but can you present it slower?
Sure.
If you select 2 collaborators, maybe Ben and Gage or Ben and Levi, to draw donor molecule and acceptor molecule, and they send you .com files with geometries, and you want to place them at a certain distance in one simulation cell, how would you do it?
Well, you would start by placing one of them on your screen. Then you need to get the other one, and you would need to place it, and you would need to adjust the distances between them using just the distances and the angles.
So you would just do copy paste?
The first one you can easily copy paste.
And what about the second?
The second one, the goal would be to get it as close to where you want it initially on here. So if you wanted it to be somewhere in there, you would want to place your molecule right there to begin with, hopefully in the orientation you're aiming for. If it's not in the orientation, you would have to adjust that.
Can you place it without a bond?
You can place them without bonds.
Okay.
So if you just click randomly on here, it'll place it. That's how you start it. The first one you place in this was just placed on a blank screen to begin with.
Very good. One of the class members was asking this question a couple of weeks ago. Right? More questions about building models through copy pasting?
So how would you do, so you have the one model and you're adding another next to it. So you literally do.
So if you're placing a second one here.
Yeah.
So the way I have this aligned here, and
yes,
isn't the nicest example because it's just a random
That's
thing
fine.
that I made. But if I would click right here, it would place this entire molecule with that carbon atom where I click.
Gotcha.
If I were to click one of these atoms in here, it would replace that atom that I click on with that.
What if you want to import a completely different molecule next to that one?
So you would need to have the molecule inputted in here. The way I got this one in here was I just copied it to the clipboard. So if you could open it up, copy the entire thing and put it in the clipboard.
What if it's not in your library? Or what if it's not a molecule? What do you do if it's outside of what you know? Like it's really big and how do you put it in there?
Do you have the XYZ coordinates?
Yeah.
Yes. Then you just make a dummy input file, and you can copy it into the clipboard.
Okay, very good.
How many molecules can fit on the clipboard at one time, do you know?
I do not know. You know, Levi?
1. Or at least to my knowledge. You might be able to do more, but it's easier to just open several windows and then copy them in as you need.
Okay, more questions? Okay, let's thank David once again. And now we are much more safer with the schedule. If you keep it with pace, everyone will have chance to speak. So next presenter is Nathan
Walker.
Who is walking to the stage, and he will deepen our knowledge in preparing atomistic models with Gaussview software.
How do you do the laser?
Front part with the button.
Alright, so after you've built a molecule, the next thing you're going to want to do is be able to tell if what you built is representative of reality in some way. And to do that, you'll usually submit it and have some software package do a bunch of calculations and then tell you, or not, it won't tell you directly, but it'll see how accurate it is, then it'll move things. And it'll just kind of do that over and over again until it's reasonable. And if you start out with a small atom, like a small molecule like this, just kind of being lazy with it and throwing things together might not be the biggest deal because there's only 12 atoms, but as you're using bigger and bigger structures, the amount of time it'll take you to do that will kind of keep on getting bigger and bigger. So if you know something about how far the atoms are supposed to be apart and what their angle should be, you should probably go ahead and make sure that everything is how it should be before you run it through. And to do that, after you run Gaussview, so I'll just come over here. There's a builder window, and if you just select the this button right here, it's the modify bond. It's the same one that was in the previous presentation. It'll bring up this window, and in addition to modifying all the bonds, like types of bonds, you can also adjust this slider, and it'll change the length. As you can see here, I selected 2 atoms, and by sliding the slider, it'll make it longer or shorter. And then once you've made sure that all the atoms are the right lengths from each other, the next step is to modify the angles. And you start off like you did before, except for you press a different button. It's the modify angle. And then once you've pressed that, what you can do is select 3 atoms in the molecule. They're the ones highlighted in blue over here. And a similar window will pop up with another slider, and what that lets you do is increase the angle. I have the angle drawn right here, and it'll move the atoms until it's at the angle you want it to be. And one useful thing is that if you look over here, take a closer look at the window, it has 3 drop-down boxes, and you can configure those in certain ways so that it'll move one atom and leave the others stationary. So here I have atom 1 and atom 2 fixed. That's these 2 atoms. And then I have the atom 3 set to rotate group. And what that'll do is as I move the slider, these first 2 atoms will stay where they are, and the third one will move to make that atom, that angle work out. If you notice here before, I only had atom 2 fixed, and the other 2 were set to rotate group, so that moved both of them at the same time. But you can just use that to target whatever atoms you want to stay where they are and move the ones that you want to move. Then after that, you can also modify the dihedral angle. It's the option to the right of the modify angle. And what that does is it lets you select 4 different atoms this time. It's hard to see which ones I have highlighted over here, but it's these 4. And what that does is it sets 2 of the atoms on one plane and 2 of the atoms on the other plane. And as you modify this angle, it kind of adjusts the angles between those 2 planes. For this benzene molecule, the 4 atoms I chose were in the same plane, so it's at a 0 angle. But if you move it, it'll just kind of change what that angle is. On the right over here, it's set to minus 90 degrees. Over here it's 80 degrees. You can see that right angle there, and then the flat surface there. And it also lets you select the direction of the angle. So they look mostly the same, but it'll kind of reverse the directions based on whether it's minus 90, minus 80, plus 90, or plus 80. But that should be it.
Okay, that thing, Nathan. And other, do not leave, maybe there will be some questions.
Yes.
What program was this? Was this
I was in Gaussview, so.
They look different. Maybe it's the background.
But if you do not like the background, ask Ben. He'll teach you or repeat his teaching how to improve the background. More questions to Nathan?
So all this was in Gaussview, right?
Yes, it was.
If you want to change a dihedral with everything bonded together, how do you go about that?
What do you mean with everything bonded together?
So like your benzene, if you wanted to change it from benzene to like cyclohexane that's in the chair conformation,
Okay.
how would you change the dihedrals?
I actually don't know.
Can you answer to
So if it's all bonded, Gaussview won't let you change it because it can't modify multiple bonds at once. So you just remove bonds and then you modify it how you need, and then you just put bond back.
Okay.
More questions to Nathan? If no, let's thank him once again. And the next presentation is by Gage Winger, and we will complete the practical skills of using Gaussview with his presentation. So if anything is not yet clear, Gage will teach us and prepare questions if any.
Okay, so this really is just a continuation of those last few presentations. Now, I could have decided to just build this benzene molecule, but there was already an option in there, and I didn't really want to. Well, at that point, I didn't really want to force it to do too much. So what I did was just took all of these atoms and just kind of randomly applied things to it. Made it look pretty bad, so it can't really be recognized as a benzene. And I modified the bond lengths, dihedrals, and some angles in there. So, and that's not really useful for anything because that, for all practical purposes, isn't benzene. So, you know, ideally what would happen is you don't mess with it like that, and you just built it, and then you just try to figure out what it's supposed to look like. So what you can do is you can just open the right click. You right click it and open up the calculate menu in the calculator setup. And when you get into that menu, you want to, in the job type tab, open this up and go to optimization. There are some other things that are in these other tabs here that are important, I believe, but are being discussed later, I think. It defaulted to what I needed, so I don't want to mess with that. Just open up optimization, the submit button or something down there that's covered by the camera. And that's what it spit out at me, which is, you know, a proper benzene molecule. Now, there is a point at which you can ask it to do too much. I had that, but a lot worse. Like, basically, you take a benzene and crumple it up in your hands, and it's kind of a ball. So I tried doing that. It did not give me that, it just gave me an error message. So then I scaled it back a bit to get what we have now in there. And, oh, I guess the broom still is showing. It is also possible to just hit the hit the broom button, and it should give you a nice molecule like that. I'm not sure whether it did that because I had already kind of given the basic setup, or just going to do that automatically. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, let's then Gage.
So, is there a difference between like using the broom icon versus using the whole optimizing procedure you discussed beforehand, or is it pretty much the same?
From what I experienced, it's pretty much the same. I didn't go too in depth with it though.
Any alternative opinions in the audience?
Does it only go to like the local minimum? I mean, the difference between the two ways of optimizing.
So, the perfect question. Please keep thinking. I'll try to bring in one more question that will probably help us to wrap minds around it. When you follow your procedure and click submit to your memory, what does it reply to you?
I think it told me to save it.
Yes. So what does it save?
Your input file. Your XYZ coordinates.
Optimized.
I don't remember off the top of my head because I ended up with like 5 different tabs of this open.
But it saves something, right?
The checkpoint or log?
No, it's .com, it's input.
It's input file.
But so when you attempting to submit, before doing that, it asks you to save. You're absolutely right. So what does it save?
It should be saving what you put in before selecting to optimize it.
Yes. Where it is saved?
Just save to the directory I had open.
How does it look like? If you had curiosity to look at the file. Probably it asks you for the name of the file and you blindly click just to repeat whatever it was. But then if you look into the directory, there should be a new file, right?
I think so.
What is your opinion and impression? What is inside this file? You already told it, just repeat.
What should be inside there is the input file that you have before it optimizes it.
Mm-hmm. Plus?
And the optimization?
Plus request, what you want to do with it. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's really, if we need to reduce the course in 5 minutes, then it is what Gage is teaching us. Right? So input and geometry and request. So going back to question of Kevin. Is anything saved when you click on the broom?
I don't think it's asked me that, no.
No, so they are very different. When you do the submit the job, it actually runs actual Gaussian, actual computational chemistry software. When you do the broom, it just follows some intuitive ideas how the optimal bond length should look like. So it may give some crazy nonsense.
Okay, so when you optimize, it actually saves the file you're working on, whereas as you do the broom, it doesn't save anything you've worked on?
Yes.
Okay.
More questions to Gage? If not, let's thank you once again. And from now on, you are certified experts on using Gaussview. So now the goal, I apologize for not asking this question to any of the previous 3 speakers, but I will ask and answer myself. What was the goal to build the model? Because later on we need atomistic Cartesian points to characterize, right? To start actual characterization. But before we're doing it, and we will do it in next chapter, there are some additional baby steps to learn how to process files before or after computational jobs, to be confident with different pieces of software, which like in the machine shop you have specific tool for each operation. And next speaker is Kweeni. So he will teach us how to convert files generated by different computational chemistry software, right?
Yes. So yeah, my name's Kweeni, and I'll be talking about Open BABEL, GUI. I don't know why they have the GUI there, but anyways. So this is what the program actually looks like when you the user interface when you first download it and launch it. And this is also I just had to show the full picture. Alright, so what does Open BABEL help you do? It allows you to convert from one file format to the other. Like for example, I've given you the Hyperchem format, which has an extension built in to the Gaussian, which is Gauss, and Avogadro. You have MoL and MoL2 into the Cartesian, and then you have smiles to ChemDraw and so forth. And this is the site you usually go to download Open BABEL. Usually you just hit the download button there, and then it takes you to some other link where you can download the Open BABEL software. And some advantages of Open BABEL: you can the convenience of converting without the actual software, so you don't have to be on Gaussian to convert to another. If you don't have Gaussian and you want to convert your files to Gaussian, you can just literally use Open BABEL to do it. And easy accessibility of Open BABEL, you can go to the website and just download it, and it has a number of formats to convert. And optional properties for more accurate conversion. And disadvantages is super glitchy and it crashes a lot of me when I'm using it. I don't know if it happens to you guys, but whenever I use it, sometimes it just freezes and then I have to wait for a while before it comes back around. And converts formats, and me and we've been having some problems. I converted once using Open BABEL, and my compounds, my molecules are actually chain molecules, and it couldn't really interpret the whole 3D coordinate as well, so it ended up having atoms just collapsing on themselves, and I had to go in and start making some corrections of the output file I got from it sometimes. But it depends on the size of the file you have. And it doesn't have all the formats, I feel like. So this is how you use it. When you download the Open BABEL software, you click that first part there to select the initial format of the file you're trying to convert, and then you you click on that to select the initial format of the file you have, and you click on that to find the file in the directory, and then also click on here to select the format you want to change it into, and then here you provide the name and the extension of the format, and here you click on any extra properties you want. If you want your molecule to be presented in a 3D coordinate system, click on that. If you want to add hydrogens to the end of your carbons, you can also click on that. And after that, then you click on the convert button, and then it changes whatever file you have here into whatever other file you want it to be. So here I was trying to convert from Hyperchem to Gaussian, and I provided my input here and I got my Gaussian output there. And that is it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Does it spit out what you want it to?
Yeah, somewhat.
How do you know when there's a, like,
How do I know when there's a mistake? Well, when I mean, I can't really read it from like the Cartesian coordinates or some other thing on there. I just have to like maybe see the 3D representation of the program first and kind of like look at it, and if it doesn't look right, then I know something's wrong.
More questions? I have one. In class, we were doing the command line Babel.
Yeah.
Right? So, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the graphic user interface Babel compared to command line?
I feel like that one is faster and less glitchy. It doesn't freeze. I don't know.
Which one?
The command line Babel.
Okay, so probably advantages of GUI is that you can use it immediately.
Yeah.
Navigating, and command line that is less glitches, and another one maybe that one can write scripts that will call this command line Babel as a like executable, and you can tailor parameters and do it in like cycle or forking several times.
Okay, can we convert collectively a number of molecules together instead of one? Can we do that? Because mostly we used to deal with hundreds of compounds, so instead of converting single by single, can we convert in a stretch 100 molecules to the one format to another format?
There are options to collect group of molecules, or one can write a little bash script that will read your input files one by one and forward them to Babel and then store the output. Your advisor is one of the top experts in doing this. More questions to Kweeni? If no, let's thank you once again. Yeah. So, next question, next presentations will be by Kevin Gima, and he will help us to analyze results of different simulations, especially geometry optimization or molecular dynamics, with different software, which is also free to download on your personal equipment.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Kevin. I'm going to be telling you guys how to use JMOL. Okay, so JMOL is basically an open source Java-based 3D chemical viewer, which basically you can use to look at chemicals, what the chemical molecules that is, how to measure distances and angles between them, and so on and so forth. So you can go to this website to download JMOL, then you like download the zip file, and then you basically extract the files and place this file type anywhere on your computer. That's it. Downloading JMOL is pretty quick and easy.
Use the keyboard.
Okay, so like opening a file in JMOL, this is, I'm basically opening this file in MobaXterm. For this example, I'm opening my file in Dmitry Killin's personal directory. I suspect that when we get our own accounts, we'll open this in someplace different. But the process is basically the same. You just type in SSH, and then whatever your like directory or site is, then you type in your password, if you need to. Voila, and you're in. Then I use the CD and CP commands to maneuver into the directory where my file is. And then I just type in this command at the bottom, jmol8/jmol.sh, and I'm opening my particular file type, benzene1.xyz, and that opens JMOL along with my molecule right here. Okay, the first thing I'm going to go over is measuring. So the first thing you can measure in JMOL is distance. So after you go to measure and click distance, then this menu pops up. When that menu pops up, you just basically click the two atoms you want a distance for. So for this example, I clicked this molecule here and this molecule right here. Then I hit OK, and then it showed me this distance right here. For an angle, I just clicked 3 molecules, so then I hit angle there, then I click this molecule right here, this molecule right here, and then that molecule right here, and then this gives me an angle of 120 degrees. And then same thing for dihedral there, except for dihedral, you select 4 molecules, and then it'll give you that corresponding distance. Hold on. Okay, so for vibration, if you go to extras there, and then if your JMOL file, has some sort of animation or vibration to it, you can play that vibration. When you go to extra, vibrate, this menu will show up, and then when you hit play right here, it'll show you this entire molecule vibrating. So that's really a great feature to have. Okay, similar procedure for animations. I went to extras, then animation, a similar menu popped up to vibration. I hit play, and then you can see this molecule moving. Okay, an easier way to open files, basically like earlier I showed you how to open files from like the MobaXterm Linux space. Here it's the same thing as in Microsoft Word. You can go to File, Open, and then navigate to whatever like directory you want, and then you can just simply open your file in JMOL. Saving files, you go to File, Save As, and then I save my file in Dimitri's directory, which is under Kevin Gima, and then all files in JMOL are saved as an XYZ file. Okay, so for viewing, you can view atoms in different ways. For example, for this part, I want to display atom style quick draw. And then you can see this molecule in like a quick draw view. If I would have selected shaded, then this would have kind of seemed a little bit more realistic. So for the atom style, this just gives me options to view the different atoms, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can do the same thing for bond style. If I selected bond style, this would pretty much just show me the same menu, and then I could just choose whatever style I wanted for these bonds. For this one, I chose a quick draw, so I chose quick draw for 1, 2, and 3 bonds. Okay, conclusions. JMOL is open sourced, which means anyone can use it. It's Java based. It has nifty tools, and it creates animations and images, which are a good thing to have whenever you're giving a talk. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions to Jim? I have a question to Kevin and maybe to everyone. Did you try to install JMOL on your personal equipment? And did you see any differences from what is on the photon?
I haven't installed it on my personal computer yet.
Do you expect any differences from what you saw?
No.
If you go online, as you instructed at the beginning, you may see that there are a little more updated version.
Okay.
And visual appearance may slightly differ.
Okay.
Just to letting you know. It's like, this one is 5 steps obsolete, but it is like optimal. Special questions to Kevin? If not, thank you once again.
Thank you.
So, another special presentation by Marymal Hedrick, and there is, please open and set up the stage. In some sense, what we do in the class is an analog of what people do in wet chemistry labs, synthesis and characterization. So what we do today is mostly synthesis. We prepare, and the rest of the course will be characterization. Some molecules, some models that we are going to characterize are too complicated for human being to draw. So one may either borrow it from another humans or directly take it from nature. So there is a experimental methodology, so-called X-ray crystallography, and you may advertise a course in X-ray crystallography and explain how one can get models for future characterization without drawing anything.
Thank you. So to extend what Dimitri is telling us, Angel is having a class. He's in chemistry. He's our X-ray crystallography guy. And second 8 weeks in March, please sit in his class, join his class. They will be talking about monoclinic structures, 111, looking at different faces of crystals and understanding the basic nomenclature before he starts getting deep into the theory. So, open to everyone, please come and do this. So, with that said, thank you, Dimitri. Go ahead and get started on today's talk, making use of crystallography data for creating input coordinates. So, let's go ahead and move forward. So, first step, there's many databases out there. There's a couple I can think of, but you can find one. They're all over the place. So pick your favorite database. This COD tends to be the popular one. I mean, I remember doing this when I was an undergrad, so pretty basic. We have some fields here. You can search by COD ID. I have never done this, so I don't remember exactly. You have some ID, you put it in, or you can do even Open BABEL, or Smiles, and I think you might have mentioned briefly on Smiles.
Can I make a brief comment before
Yes,
we continue?
go ahead.
So, a little introduction thrown in between. So, X-ray crystallography, when one uses X-ray electromagnetic radiation scattering from periodic structures, is recorded and through Fourier transform is reconstructed into positions of atoms. So, as soon as your model is infinitely periodic with repeating cells, the X-ray crystallography has tools to reconstruct positions of all atoms. And typically, if you publish in X-ray crystallography scientific work, you are mandated to provide these coordinates. And there are smart people who collect all these coordinates into databases. Sort of interruption, please.
No,
continue.
but is that related to like the Smiles, those like kind of, are you familiar with that nomenclature then? Because I'm not sure what the Smiles stands for.
Your advisor is...
He's gonna know, okay. So there's some things we could put in here in the search field, but if you're new to this like I am a bit, the easiest way to do it is just put it into a text here. So I'm looking at silver oxide. Enter the name, you can go ahead and click send or enter, and then it's gonna bring you to this. Now this looks kind of scary, but it's really not. You have your ID, your .CIF files are here. If you were in a hurry and you didn't care about the spacing group with the cell parameters, you could just go ahead and directly download those. But if you're like me and you're curious and you want to know what it is you're looking at, and namely that you could trust the sources that you're looking at, it's best to click on this ID and you can see the bibliography, the papers with it, etc. So let's look at that. Oh yeah, let's try this together. So this is interactive. I just realized I did that in the presentation. So, okay, control click, and it should bring up a website. I don't know if it will. let's try this again. Sorry, guys.
Are you holding down control? That sometimes makes it the hyperlink is active.
Let me just copy it. This is easier for me. Copy. It's really hard to see from here. So. Okay. So here we are. Gotta give the preview just a second. And you'll see, oh, okay, we got our entry card. We have got, how well can you guys see this? You can see this okay?
Yeah.
So if I hover my mouse over, hit right click, you see some options here. So we have their symmetries. Our 111, what you see is our cell. So we have a couple atoms in our cell. Well, let's load 111. What does that do? Okay, so it gives us this. And we can rotate this. This is interactive. All right, so this gives you an idea if you were in a hurry and you wanted to look at some much larger structures to see, as someone who wants to cut and make quantum dots or make clusters, what structures can you start with? So you know that you have them here. You're like, this data looks great. These don't look they don't look weird. So then we can go ahead and save this information. You can also click to ChemSpider, so you can bring this up. Let's see, I actually haven't clicked this yet before, but look at that, it brings this information up about the properties of this material and the chemical information. So we also have the chemical name formula, calculated formula. This is related to what Dr. Razloff is doing, so we can talk more about that. And the different angles, as well as, thank you, I was looking for them. The different angles between, say, these alpha, beta, and gamma are what I'll be learning in Angel's class on monoclinic structures. So these are more or less your cell angles and your cell dimensions, and those kind of deals. So that gives you what the current version was. Like from 2017, in October, we have this range that's related, and this is what we're using. So that is exactly what you would do. You'd pick that, and you would collect that CIF file. So going back to the presentation, I'll go back here. So from slideshow, current slide. We just did that, and we got that CIF file. So what does a CIF file actually contain? What's inside the contents here? So it tells you it's from the Cambridge Crystallography Data Center, and this is, what it tells you what it's going to include, and it's crystal face. Now, once I take Angel's class, I'll be able to explain this in a little bit more detail. But this is how the structure is looking, like what parts we're seeing. And then it shows you all these coordinates, but if you look at the rest of it, then you start getting this solid. So we just saw that in the website. It showed us these the dimensions, and it showed us the angles and the cell volume, so you get some cell volume here. And then if you go further down, we start getting into those coordinates of the atoms. So, mercury, downloading, use it. It's really, really important. The biggest question is, how in the world do I get these coordinates from the CIF file into something I can build in, say, Gaussview? Well, your middle man or woman is going to be mercury, because you need to be able to build your cell, you need to be able to cut it, you need to be able to get it in a shape that you want it to, because from the CIF file, it's not going to necessarily be what you want, and it's not what I want. This is too small. If I was going to use this guy and build him in Gaussview, I would be very displeased, simply because trying to figure out how this would build, and you can add things, but it doesn't produce the same figure, render, same structure or cell that you see in looking at it from the crystallography database. So mercury is our middle guy go-to. So we open the CIF file, we show this 1 unit cell. This next one this is really, really important. You want to go to the calculate function and hit molecular shell, because this is going to allow you to create this shell, to create this quantum dot, this cluster that you're seeking. So from there, this is kind of a little strange, but you'll get this to pop up. That's fine, just leave it there for a second. You need to click your middlemost atom. Now this is a simple structure. You could have something that's a little bit bigger. Maybe I decide this is my centermost atom, or maybe it's this one. But you just kind of pick one that you think works. And then you decide how you want to change that. And we have a minimum and we have a maximum. You kind of want to just play with this maximum. You can show contact lines that shows you kind of like the distance lines in between things. Let's see what happens when we, okay. So the goal is change max from 3 to 4. Now it was 3 originally, but I'm cheating here and I'm showing you 4, but change it to 4, pretend it's a 3, and then this is what you get. Your cell is built. Now there's something really, really important here. Now you guys are very studious and detectives and how to fine tooth comb. You would pay very close attention to make sure I'm using the structure, this PN-3 that I showed in the previous slides, and I had to fix that because I figured somebody studious in the crowd would notice they weren't the same structure. But this should be the same structure as the one before. Be very, very, very careful when you're in the database, because the ones, you'll see 2 different structures here. I'm showing you the PN-3, but there's also that PN -3M. They're different. They have different angles, they have different cell dimensions, they have, it's gonna make a difference in how your cell builds. So you're gonna have to play around with this. And what is your goal? Well, I'm trying to build a quantum dot, I'm trying to build a cluster. Well, you want something nice and round. If you have a lot of dangly parts, it's gonna make it hard. You know, I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna fix this up, but you gotta know how the cell is building. There's gonna be a big difference in your optimization, because it could take longer, it could take shorter. So, steps to using it to creating your input file. So, using BABEL, you can convert your .pbd to XYZ for use in Avogadro. So, this is another software I'll be talking about. So then the ultimate question is, what's Gaussview compared to Avogadro? What if I don't have Gaussview? Avogadro is free, okay. And how do they compare? Well, let's open one and check here. Well, now I don't have my laptop with me, but let's take the next slide and see. So this is in Avogadro, and you need to convert to the XYZ to be able to open this. This doesn't look right. Right off the bat, I can tell there's some strangeness happening here with this double bond. Everything looks kind of squished together. The angles don't look right. It doesn't look anything like what I saw before. There are options, and I'm not showing them here, to actually set it up for Gaussview, or Gaussian to run Gaussian. So you just kind of have to play with that functionality. But if you want to take a look at it, and you're not near Gaussview, and you're not accessible to check it out, this is a quick way to do it. But when you're working with a structure that's a little bit more complicated than benzene, this can be a little troublesome. So I crossed out Avogadro. It's no good to me. It might be good to you. You just gotta try it out. Looks like it's not gonna work well for this one. So from here, we convert our .pdb to our .com or input file using BABEL, or if we just open Gview, that task can be done for us. But the ultimate question is, how does this structure fare? Is this what we want? Will Gaussview give us what we need? Yes, it will, because this is much, much better. This is exactly what I'm seeking. You can see the symmetry, you can see the more or less crystalline structure that we expect to see from what we've taken in our JMOL applet when we looked on the database. So from here, as you've seen in the previous gentleman's presentations, you could go ahead and add the rest of your input file. So you have your coordinates, add your header, add your optimization, and then you can run it in Gaussian. There is a helpful Mercury guide out there. Please look at this. And everyone needs to download Mercury, especially if you're going to be dealing with smaller structures and crystalline structures and that kind of thing. And please take Ongo's class. He's going to get some really cool stuff. That's all I got.
Okay, thank the speaker. And do not depart, you may have some questions. Please.
So in your CIF file, the positions, can you open that slide? So that 1, 2, 3, that means, yeah, those lines. So those are basically in symmetry style.
I suspect they're defining without actually knowing completely the positions that I think these have to be related to these. This is where I'm not entirely sure.
These basically represent the positions of
Yeah.
the atoms.
That's what I feel. If you could sit this down, because there's a bit more,
Yeah.
and then
So these basically represents
Yeah.
the positions of the atoms.
yeah.
Is there any way that we can see the positions in Cartesian style, like x, y, and z values? Those are not values. Sorry, those are
No,
equations
no.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So, like, can we get any CI file where the positions are in Cartesian styles, like 0.5, 0.75, minus 0.5, something like that? I mean, the positions are in numerical values.
Right. So those are the fraction of. This is a question I'm not entirely.
So the
Yeah.
CIF file
Yeah.
describes the primitive cell of your crystallography data. So it won't be an XYZ. It is in, I think, in inverse, like the lattice space. So it says where different atoms are, and then Mercury reads in what type of primitive cell it is, and then where each atom is, and then it converts it to XYZ.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, and we did have presentations on BABEL by Kweeni, right? For converting into desired format, including conversion from CIF to XYZ. So it was intentionally there. More questions? I have one.
Yeah.
So you have mentioned that for humans it is not easy to build periodic crystals as we tried with previous speakers with Gaussview. So what is the objective difficulty? Why it is not easy?
A lot of these structures, what I've noticed is that they're very coordinated. We have certain spaces
Good word.
in between, we have certain angles, the distances are already defined. And my worry is if I'm building a quantum dot and I just stick something out in space and try to get close, if it's not right, it's not going to optimize. It could try every.
Good. Is there a concept of chemical bond for solid? Like all molecules have chemical bonds and the software draws them. Is there how concept of chemical bond projects to solids?
So you have to. So I think I know your question is. You got to understand if you have a covalent bond, or if you have a coordinated bond, because this is where the experimental data comes into play. And this is what I did when I was in Svetlana's group. Is I made sure my bonds were the right length. They were not the right length. You can't have something just sitting out there. So you have to understand the coordination chemistry, and the same with working with complexes. Like, I hope I'm answering this right. Okay. So you have to make sure, and understanding the size of your atoms is important too. You're not going to have very close opposite charged molecules or species around something that's big, that has a big center. So you have to be careful about that charge balance. This is where looking at this is going to be, the crystallography data is going to be beneficial looking at that.
And ionic as well.
Ion.
Right? So a concept of bond is replaced just by coordination. And sometimes the lines for chemical bonds drawn with different forms of software are just lines.
Yeah.
They do not affect how calculation is going on. One needs only Cartesian positions of ions. And sometimes the optimization and this broom in Gaussview will not work because it relay to interatomic bonds, concept of the bonds, but for solids, concept of bonds is not defined. Questions to Mary? No? Let's thank once again. So, the last but not least presenter, Anas?
Yeah, I was the last guy submitted the presentation.
I was trying to be very
Getting-
careful to your feelings and not just
No. You are trying hard to get presentation. Thank you.
So a little more steam to listen and ask questions, and we will be done. And Anas will tell about another piece of software that does everything at once. The software that he is going to present is not, one cannot run it on HPC for increasing productivity, but it is very, very comfortable to use. It is a suite that includes all steps, from building to computing to analyzing.
Yours would be to the right of Mary's. You should be number 11.
It's hidden by the screens.
Look on another screen.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Dimitri told, it's Hyperchem. It's a molecular modeling software which has been widely utilized for building the structures, and it's known for its quality, its flexibility, and its easy of using. And I came to acquainted with this particular software very recently. We were doing a project in our department. Especially, I was trying on the modeling of glass transition temperature of polymer. Made was on the refractivity index of the polymers. So we were introduced with the software by our advisor, Dr. Rasula. Basically, the idea is that we were trying to get model the Cusa properties of the polymer related with the glass transition temperature. So we have to get how the Cusa properties can be modeled by using the quantum descriptors. So we get a lot of quantum properties from Hyperchem. So basically we can draw the many different types of structures by using the Hyperchem. It's a simple process. If you double click into the periodic table present in the Hyperchem, a list of all the elements pop up. You can select the convenient element from that, and you can draw the different structures. You can even draw the complex aromatic, cyclic, all structures.
It's the very top.
This is the button.
Top part of laser, top part of the button. The very top, yes.
Oh. So this is a structure we've drawn. It's a phenyl methacrylate structure we've been drawn by using the Hyperchem software. If you want to draw the cyclic structures, it can be drawn by using just like the paint format. If you want to add the bonds, double bonds, you can double click on the mouse. The double bond will be formed. If you want to erase it, just right click the mouse, the bond will be erased. And you can easily label the different atoms there. And it's very important how to save the file in the Hyperchem, because after forming a structure, it's very important saving the file. If you click the file menu, you can go for the save as file and make sure that the file format we selected is the HIN format there. And for my particular case, it's phenyl methacrylate as name as given, and it is appear as phenyl methacrylate.hin. And you can do a lot of labeling by using this software. You can label it for its symbol, you can label it for its charge, its mass of atom, spin population, its chirality, everything you can label. Just go for the display menu, there you could find the labeling. In that labeling, you can, in this particular box pop up, you can select what kind of labeling you need. And another important aspect of using the Hyperchem is the structure optimization. We know this is for my example, the phenyl methacrylate is the initial structure. if I go to the setup, I could find the semi-empirical method. In that semi-empirical method, different types of optimization methods pop up, like AM1, RM1. So we select RM1 for the optimization, and if you go there and click OK, it will be the structure will be optimized. We have to select the RM1 from there, and we have to go to the compute and select the geometry optimization, and we will get an optimized structure. So depending upon the structure complexity, the optimization time will be varying, and we can select the maximum cycle, how much iteration it has to go for the optimization. All this can be played around by feeding the data into the semi-empirical optimization. And another important property advantage of Hyperchem, we can compute a lot of properties from an optimized structure. If you go to the properties after the optimization, you can by clicking the properties, this particular pop up, and you can find out the different properties like the total energy, entropy, free energy, heat capacity. So these properties I was using for my BQSAR modeling. And another important aspect is we can compute the homolume properties of a structure after optimization. So same way, go to the compute, find the orbitals, and you can compute the homolume values in electron volt. By clicking on the bottom one, you can calculate the HOMO, and by clicking on the top one, it's basically the valence electron. So you can calculate the electron volt. So this is the different 3D and 2D views of the homolume calculated structures. And this is the the QSAR properties, quality, structure, and activity relationship properties can be also been computed by using Hyperchem. If you go into the compute and QSAR properties, you can compute various QSAR properties like the volume and surface area, log P, polarizability, and the mass, and it's very useful for the QSAR modeling. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, but thanks, Anas. Any questions? Does anyone has Steam for questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
So why are you looking at the homolume?
Why?
Why are you looking at the homolume?
Yeah, so this why we are looking for the homolume. For this my particular case, we were modeling the glass transition temperature.
Okay.
So whether the electronic properties have some relation with the glass transition temperature. So homolume doesn't appear as an important descriptor in our model because we have much more better properties, because glass transition is much more a bulk property of the polymer rather than the electronic part.
Okay.
Yeah.
More questions? I have a couple of comments. If you did like presentation by Anas and software that he was, so to say, advertising, they allow 10 days free trial if you really want to complete some quick project without paying. And if you think that you really want to work with it, there are ways to arrange it through university. Second comment, one slide before and question of Mary were focusing on homolume orbitals, including through electronic structure calculations. So in a very oversimplified summary, it is what we will be doing for next 3-4 weeks, and in next presentation everyone will show how to do it with different pieces of software. So let's thank Anas once again.
I have a question to you. So you said if we really wanted it, we could have the Hyperchem lab. Could we?
If you justify. So,
Because you said you had one license that you could show us, right?
but it is one person, one CPU, so you cannot like scale it for everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks once again for preparing and making nice presentations. So we covered basics of Linux and high performance computing, the human operated drawing of chemical molecules, then converting between different formats and analyzing geometry, then unhuman importing geometries from crystallography databases and summary of all-in-one software. So with this, we are almost done with first chapter of the course, and thank you for enthusiastic contributions. Looking forward to continue the course for continuation, and homework that was due last Tuesday is postponed to next Tuesday. If you have done it, just. Okay, many thanks to all speakers, and this presentation will be shared for everyone.
So are we like having a makeup class tomorrow? I thought you said like in the emails that we were having some sort of makeup class tomorrow.
No.
Okay.
No. If you really want, there will be a group meeting, but it is not part of the class.
Okay.
Wait, you're having a group meeting tomorrow?
Yeah.
What time?
3. It will be makeup group meeting because one was missed on.
We have seminar at 3:30. So